Okay. And if I may ask my colleagues around the room to jump in and also just add your voice to this conversation. Yes, sir. All right. And may I ask Ernest, write every single question that you get down. Okay.
We've already gotten some really good questions that I need to write down.
Okay. Yes, I have to do that right now as well. All right, everybody. Is there an elephant in this room? If there is, I want to address it. I think for some folks, this feels like deja vu. Because a few years ago, there was a proposal for an LNG storage facility in Charlton. And it's my understanding that the people of Charlton said, not in my backyard, or not in my town. However, the state, the Energy Facility Siting Board, for lack of better words, and hopefully I tend to fumble on my words, so just call me out on it. But the EFSB said, I'm sorry, Charlton, this will go in your town. And it would be a mistake, I think, on our part if we didn't acknowledge that up front, that this, for a lot of folks, might feel like a similar situation, where the state has basically said any large-scale energy facility, such as a battery energy system, the one we're proposing, actually must go to the state for approval. And so, one of the questions I'm going to ask tonight, I guess the way we kind of structured this is we wanted you to sort of get a sense for what the project is, get some context about what we're talking about, and just pelt us with questions. Hopefully you got a lot of questions out in this last hour. I now want to ask you some questions for clarity, and there's two in particular that I'll get to. The first is I want to know what brought you here. I want to know why you're here in this room, and I thank you for being in this room because there's other things you could be doing right now. I thank you that you care about your community, to be here, share your voice, and I want your voice to impact how this project manifests. I don't want your voice to just go into a void where no one hears it and it doesn't do anything. I'm going to ask you to keep us honest and accountable to that. So the first question is, what brought you here? We'll get to that in a second. The second question is, how do you want your voice heard? What do you want your voice to influence? Let's pretend there is no state. How do you want to weigh in on this? And so those are going to be the two questions we'll get to. But first I want to share a little bit about our background. We're called ESA. We're based in Maitland, Florida. I'm Wes. I'm joined by Seth. We got Matt. We got Jonathan, Luis, George. We got Ernest, and we got the one and only Tamara. So in Florida, as you might know, some people call it the Sunshine State, but frequently we experience these hurricanes, these really large storm events. And I remember I moved to Florida as a freshman in high school. My first hurricane was in 2004. It was Hurricane Charlie. And this was a big boy. I think it got up to Category 4 and just rolled right through my town. And the power was out for 3 days. And at first, I think I was a sophomore or maybe a junior. At first, this is awesome. Like, power's out. All the neighbors came out onto the street. We were all sharing what was left in our freezers and refrigerators. We were helping each other take the panel, the shutters down. There was like this moment of camaraderie with the neighborhood. But day two then came around, 24 hours later. And if you've ever been to Florida, it can get kind of hot, a little swampy. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but we typically have air conditioning, and in this case we didn't. All of a sudden, this power outage wasn't so romantic. It was now, okay, this is uncomfortable. Finally, day 3, the power came back on, and I will always remember there was sort of this hum that like washed over our neighborhood, and everyone just threw their arms in the air and like everyone was just excited, and it was sort of this collective moment. Fast forward 20 years, at this point, I'm a seasoned hurricane prepper. I'm now in my 30s, but I have a 1-year-old and a family. Now I'm head of the household. And a Hurricane Milton comes through in 2024, and the power goes out for half a day. But that was a very excruciating, painful day for me, because with a 1-year-old, we had prepped, we always prepped, but I want access to power. I realize, and I think we all here in Florida, we all share those experiences where all of a sudden we realize how important power is. But here's the catch. We know that power matters to quality of life, but we shouldn't have to trade it or forego it for our safety, for our property values, for our sense of place. Those things matter too. And so when we set out to build this, we want to adhere to some strict lines. We don't want to put you at risk. We don't want to change your quality of life or your sense of place. We know you live here because it is a great place. It's a beautiful place. The trees define this place. The air, the smell of the air, I mean, it is distinct. I mean, I don't know, you're probably used to it, but when we get off the plane here, it's like, oh, it smells really nice here, right? But those are hard lines we want to follow. And so I know this feels like deja vu, and I can't change anything about what happened in the past, but I'm raising my right hand up to say, I want this to matter. I want what you say to matter, and I want it to influence how this unfolds. And so I think, without, I guess, spieling more, I do want to ask the first question, which is, what brought you here? And the way we were thinking we would do this is we would maybe talk amongst each other and then share out. But I think maybe the way that this is flowing, let's kind of switch it up. I just want to hear from you, in no particular order. What brought you here tonight? What were your expectations, and what do you hope to see happen?
It's exactly what you're saying. It's the deja vu. We had no choice. They just said, we hear what you're saying, but it's too bad. It's coming anyways. And this is, half a mile from my house, and it's water quality if something happens, because we all have wells. And it's noise. And I know you say you don't really hear it, but there is no noise in our neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, maybe we can hear the pike during the winter, but it's quiet, and we like it quiet. And we came here because it's quiet. So that's why I came. And why I
Thank you for
came.
being here. Also, I guess quick survey, who received a postcard in the mail notifying them of this meeting in time? Please raise your hand.
Nobody.
Nobody got a mailer.
Nope.
We sent 5,414 mailers.
Your room wouldn't have been big enough if they had gotten them.
I'm sorry?
This room would not have been big enough if they had gotten them.
Right, well, maybe.
And you would have run out of food.
We bought a list of every P.O. box and address in Charleston. And I think it was what, 32?
Yeah, it would have been
You should
bad.
get your money back. Yeah. Stuff in the mail and nobody got it.
It's all right, because we're going to do this all again.
Yeah, this is a dress rehearsal for a public meeting we will host in the late summer. And I don't know if you guys indicated times and dates that make sense, but we want to hear from you when this meeting needs to happen to get people out. And maybe it's a different venue, but we'll cross those bridges. Okay, that was just, I just wanted to.
I had to go to your site to find time.
Well, thank you for however you figured out how to get here. Thank you.
Going back to Florida, I was heavily involved in the energy construction. Do you have DPU approval and a number for this project?
We have-
determined.
We have not filed anything. So we have not even filed with the
Or
DPU.
trust me.
So
Because when you deal with DPU, inside 128, they don't recognize anything outside of immediate Boston area. And they don't care what happens outside of that. So that's where part of this animosity begins.
yeah, I hear you.
And with other DPU and DPU, on DPD, I've never read anything about it.
Yeah, we have not filed anything. So the process that's before us right now, we are currently in a pre-filing context. We're reaching out to the community to understand your questions, your concerns, and how we can integrate that into the design of the project. It's a requirement of this new process, the consolidated permitting process. All large-scale energy facilities must go apply to the DPU or the EFSB, the Energy Facility Siting Board, for what's called a consolidated permit. And it's basically the wetlands permit, the stormwater, and even the zoning is part of that permit. What we're setting out to do over the next 6 months, we'll say, is we want to talk to as many people as we physically possibly can and answer their questions directly. We also want to construct what's called a community benefit plan. The community benefit plan basically says, how will Charlton benefit from this project when we're gone, and when this is already built, and when it's in operation? How will this project have lasting impact? And if you're familiar with the host community agreement with Amazon or other similar agreements, I think maybe the medical marijuana folks have a few host community agreements. These are things that have been happening in Charlton in the past. So we can cross that bridge. Also question, sorry, I'm kind of riffing, but raise your hand if you or someone in your family works in electricity. Maybe it's as a lineman or at a factory, at a power plant, or in any field that's tangent to electricity.
So,
It could be solar, it could be anything.
About a third.
Okay. I do find that intriguing because we don't see that in other communities we work, where there's this many folks who are actually like involved in that economy. The reason I bring that up is because I think that speaks to why we're even here tonight. 60-something years ago, 1967 to be precise, at the time the grid operators brought the 345 kV line right through Charlton, built the Carpenter Hill substation, connecting Ludlow to Charlton. And then the next year they extended that out towards Millbury. They continued that connection towards Millbury. In that moment, when that substation was plopped down here, it set the stage for this project. Now the technology wasn't there 60 years ago. That's had to come to fruition over the more recent past. Now with the technology here, this 345 kV substation with the 115 kV element as well is a really awesome opportunity for a battery energy storage to be a companion to that substation. And that means that in times when electricity is in high demand, this battery can service that electricity. When it's in low demand, it can charge. So it's, in that sense, it's balancing out the grid throughout the 24-hour period. It also can be used when we see events like last Thursday, when the ISO New England was saying, oh man, we're about to reach peak load. We're looking at 25 gigawatts of load over the next 24 hours, or during the next peak demand. That's a real strain on the grid. That's where something like a battery comes in to relieve that pressure. Or even on a day-to-day, just managing the frequency and the voltage of the lines in this area. We can squeeze more out of what we have if we have a battery in this substation. So I want to be clear about why we're here. It's a story about infrastructure and geography. Charlton's really interesting because it's the only substation between basically Springfield and like the greater Boston area. This is the one east-west connection through this central part of the state is right through Charlton. So I want to be clear about why we're here. We're not necessarily targeting Charlton for any ill reason, but it's infrastructure. And we do see that there are already 2 battery storage systems in operation east of us, one in Medway and one in Carver, similar size. Okay, so that's enough of my spiel. But let's hear more from folks on what brought you here tonight. Yes, sir.
Bill Fontaine from the Planning Board in town of Charlton. Would like to help you guys with your community engagement plan and make sure that we hear from not only these people, but the other groups of community members, parents of students, parents of preschool kids, sports families, church groups, and just help you with that and make sure we collect all this feedback, because I understand that it gets reported to the state's utility siting committee in your package.
Right.
So I'm glad there's a great turnout here, and I hope we have many more of these events.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that assistance. I think it helps us to reach more people if there are folks who, whether or not you support the project, it's irregardless if you support the project. If you just think more people need to know about it, we are humbly asking for your help to get the word out. There should be 10 times more people here. I mean, this is awesome. This works for me. I was a little nervous, but yeah.
You had to put stamps on those cards. Somebody took the money.
We pay the service to do the whole thing, but that's,
You'll get them.
We will.
The mail's just
We'll
slow.
probably get it next week.
It's election season.
I mean, it was like 3 weeks ago.
I think we got a couple other.
So I use postcards all the time for advertising, and I frequently mail out 100, and maybe I'll get one back.
Like one that gets bounced back.
One that gets bounced back,
Maybe-
so something was wrong with the service.
May we talk more about how we go about that, so that we may,
Lamaki will be with me. Maybe they'll do the mail.
okay? I mean, yeah. It's an expense.
I think, my name is Gina, and I live on Carpenter Road. I live not half a mile from where the substation is now. And I'm concerned about how it's going to affect my house, my land, and, well, I go by there more than once a day usually. So it's in my backyard,
It's literally in the backyard.
pretty much. And I didn't know about it, so.
It is a miracle that you're here. Thank you for being here. I saw your hand.
I'm in the fall on Road, Crystal Lake, again, right over, back, you can, when your flyover comes up, you can see Crystal Lake in the back. But, same scenario, and I just want to make sure that things are safe, and, to be aware of what's going on and how, what the process is.
Right, things are safe. Be aware what the process is.
And again, when I drive by there constantly, so the traffic is gonna be when construction is going on. Are the roads rated for the big trucks that are gonna come in?
Right?
So,
Yeah, everything from the grade to the pavement itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just be informed.
Every question we get tonight is going to be written, the answer will be written and provided via email and on our website, but we'll find, if we may, find other avenues. I know, thank you for the help on the Facebook. I think that's been helpful.
Yeah.
Both other channels, and we did put a, did anyone see the ad in the newspaper? Some people do, but.
Charlton Gazette?
Not the town?
Yeah. So it's-
No, no, don't sign it.
Someone's still.
Any other, oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my name's Jordan. I live on Bucket Hill, so I'm not quite as close as a lot of the people that have spoken, but, reasonably close, connected by the woodland. That was one of my main concerns, was I definitely wanted to come and hear about what you guys were doing for fire safety and things like that. But, there have been, a lot of people do have wells, and my residents did at one point as well. But I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the issues that our town had with ExxonMobil. in the past. Our wells were contaminated
Right.
pretty severely, so that's another kind of concern, like
And
having
the
someone else
landfills
come
too,
in.
right?
Yeah, the landfill,
Um,
exactly, landfill, yes.
Yeah.
I am aware, yeah, I think that, we're taking that into account, and
Yeah.
that history matters.
Yeah, but in general, it just came to kind of get informed, and, you know, learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing before, you know, coming to any conclusions and just, you know, learning about what might be in my community.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for joining. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Emily Norman and I live at 43 Carpenter Road. I have a 6-year-old son, I'm expecting a baby girl. So I have a young family in town. I've done a little reading about some of the things that have happened in California with some of these battery cooling centers, and kind of just curious to hear like safety plans, right? Like
Yeah.
what happens if the worst happens, if something overheats, if there's a fire. How are you protecting those of us who live around there? With, you know, there's been reports of like toxic chemicals, people being sick from the explosions and things like that. So that's really what prompted me.
Awesome, thank you for being here. Congratulations, and yeah, that's definitely probably the number one question we get. Yes, sir.
I was about to say I have the same concern. I did most of my research on this as well, about the types of batteries, the noise level, what are the consequences of the infrastructure that is being set up in that area, and what, you know, what's gonna happen afterwards, and like you said, the legacy. You know, the mutual aid plan, what will people do to have for themselves when everyone else is viable, when law is not on their hands, and how much wattage is being available for the electricity being provided for these houses. And you said peak demand, 4 hours and 120,000 homes during peak demand.
Right.
So it's like how much is really worth it. You know, the fires, like they said, and generally the environmental impacts. The noise level can damage environments and wildlife as well. It can drive wildlife away from Charlton. It can damage things around it.
Thank you for digging deeper to create context for those questions. I'd like to answer every one of those, particularly written, but we'll also answer them tonight. I saw your hand.
Yeah, Dylan Maxwell, I'm the newly onboarded town planner, work with the planning board, so I'm here because I will be sure working with you folks throughout this project, so on the technical side of things for the town, so if people have questions, you're more than welcome to stop by the planning board and answer them the best I can and work with you folks.
Thank you. Any other, yes, sir.
My name's Chris. I actually live on the other side of town, so this doesn't apply to me. But I do work in the energy industry, so some of the concerns that I have are compliance with NFPA, codes and regulations, addressing any concerns that the chief of the fire department would have. I would say lightning protection. I know where I live in Charlton, I've had 2 lightning strikes at my house. Site drainage. So Charlton had a real problem with solar developers running wild in the town, and the issue wasn't the solar power, it was the damage that was being done to the land, not controlling runoff, not controlling soil depletion, things like that.
Right.
So I think you're getting
Particularly
into
during construction, I imagine.
construction.
Yeah.
And then also in terms of your lifespan for the project and when what the forecasted lifespan is, and then eventually decommission.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Those are good questions. Any other why you're here? Because then my next question is, as an outsider, I told you I was from Florida, coming into this community, basically as a business, moving into the community as a business, what do you expect from an outsider like us in terms of standard? What's your expectation for how we operate, how we conduct our business, essentially? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say that I hope that your business treats your operations in our area as if it would be local to you.
Yeah.
You know, like I know NIMBY is a word thrown around, but it's more of a I don't mind this kind of thing in my area as long as it is sensitive to the area, sensitive to the established norms and such, and reasonably, does what it needs to maintain the existing things. Like obviously it's not going to be exactly as it was before, but maintaining what it was as if it is your community, rather than treating it like a isolated kind of separate thing, not my problem kind of thing.
Right.
Very well said. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for setting the tone because, yeah, I mean, where we live, we do have energy plants and solar, some batteries. One of the largest battery systems in the country is Manatee Energy Storage Center. But I think what you're getting at is like that empathy. Like if I'm the nearest neighbor, how would I expect or want the developer to behave? Okay, I like that framing.
To branch out on other ideas than solely focused on one product itself, like they said, focus on, what we as residents, what we would think is good, and also focus on other ideas that would be capable for us as well, that, generally could be used as backup or could be generally used as other options when things are not looking the same as what they were looking towards.
Okay, so expanding, and I think that,
Having a wide range of options.
I love that. And are you speaking specific to the site or something like our community benefit plan that it spreads, sort of distributes the benefits in a broader sense?
I guess generally, the whole project itself, just to be open-minded and have a wide range of benefits to help
Okay,
Charlotte
holistic,
itself.
more of a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
As part of your plan, are you going to be requesting a tax incentive program?
That's a really good, please get that question out of that. The short answer is I don't know. Because here's a catch that everyone needs to be aware of. We are not the owner and operator long-term for this project. Our job is to pursue the permits and essentially do what's called entitlement. Essentially earn the rights to build something. But it's someone else who forks up the money to do it. It's not us. Unfortunately, we don't have, or maybe fortunately, because more money, more problems, but we don't have the money to expend that capital, that amount of capital. So we will be selling this project to the owner-operator who will build and operate this project. I see your face. What's your thought? What were you just thinking?
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, you're gonna do this and then hand it all off.
Yes, sir. That's exactly our business.
It's exactly what it's in the LNG plan.
So here's what, and yes, ma'am, what were you thinking? We don't know. We know the class of people, like the class of businesses that would fit into that. Like for instance, the folks who, we'll have to look into who actually was the EPC for these two other projects, but there is a class of owners that basically buy these types of projects.
Yeah, just so you guys know, there's developers, which is us, and there's independent power producers, which is the operator, right? Sometimes the IPP, for the acronym, are the developer too, but in general, National Grid is not building their own sites. Sometimes they're procuring projects and then they hire out an EPC or basically what the construction team is to build it, and then they operate it themselves. So they're buying developments, just like an IPP would buy a development. So it's pretty commonplace for the country, mostly here. You have a competitive market here. So projects are built based on the location and how essentially it costs, right? So that's a good thing for the ratepayer. So that's why you want to have developers out there that are able to develop as many sites as you can, and then the utilities pick which are the best sites that can run. So that's why you have a team like us that does what we do.
So there's a follow-up question. If something goes wrong, this one went that one, that one went this one, you know.
Yeah, who's accountable? If I, do we put that, let's put that on what we answered, because I still want to farm or field questions, but you're touching on a very important question about accountability, and I think that will keep coming back around, that will be relevant throughout everything we do. Yes?
So my concern now is,
Who's
who's accountable if there's not a buyer, or if the owner goes bankrupt?
Well, that's a good question.
That's decommission.
That's a decommissioning question, but there's also other layers that we can talk about.
But just so you know, until it gets purchased, we are accountable. We are the asset owner, right? So until very late stage in the development, we would be responsible for this.
What's the expected lifespan of the project?
It kind of depends on the utility. I don't know if I want to say exactly. It's more of a range, in between 35 to 50 years, something like that.
You guys aren't gonna own this for 35 years.
What's that?
You're not gonna own this for 35 years.
We will not. I'm sorry. We will not. No. We would own it
Oh,
up
what's
to
the time range for
construction.
our ownership? Is that the question?
Lifespan of the system.
Okay.
Yeah, so somewhere between 35 and 50 years is like the operational life of the battery. Now they are replaced, cells are replaced throughout the operation.
Yeah, there's a time period in which they're being replaced, even within a 10 to 15 time cycle. There's a chance that every one of those has been replaced within that frame. But the operational life, like all the financing that goes into it, sort of like how long will this battery sit here, can be upwards of 25, 30, 40 years, 50 years, I guess in some cases.
So there's no plan in effect, or will be in effect, will be of how to dispose of lithium battery.
There is a plan.
Yeah, but is it guaranteed? Who's gonna guarantee that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's get to that. What was your thing?
I just wanted to add that throughout this process of us being the developers, we are gathering the conditions that will be attached to our permit. So through this process of community engagement and then going through the state, there is a certain performance that the project needs to meet. There are certain design standards, there are certain performance standards that the facility has to meet, and not only through the initial stages, but throughout its life cycle. So even if we exit the project, whoever purchased that project is legally bound to meet the conditions on the permit. So that is all being defined right now. So because we're not the long-term owners and operators of the site, doesn't mean that what we're doing right now is going to craft the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Russ, question back here.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I was just asking, whatever the purchaser, are they legally bound to the agreement that you're making?
Is that your question too? So here's something we have to figure out, I think, through this process. There's two ideas when it comes to community benefit umbrella. There's the plan, which is not legally binding. It's more of a guide or a framework that would lead to an agreement. The agreement is legally binding. Now, if I may just show you my cards as a company, we frankly we're cautious or apprehensive about getting into a binding agreement before we sell the project. Because that increases our risk basically to do what ultimately we're trying to do, which is to sell to an owner-operator. However, we know that, going back to this deja vu thing, every time we come here and talk to folks, we learn that only doing the plan and not the agreement might not work for the community. I'm just showing you my cards. This is just the things I think about while standing up at the ceiling laying in bed at night. I'm like, I don't think Charlton is going to go for just a community benefit plan. And sorry if my boss is listening. So I think we need to figure out in this process, how do we do an agreement? Because if we get to the agreement stage in this process, we're gonna be really sensitive to how that agreement unfolds, but maybe we just need to go through that gauntlet. Maybe we just need to push through that and be comfortable with what the agreement says. I will say that's gonna be also, that's gonna involve the town and the town manager, and that's gonna have to, there's like a kind of a legal side to it, that needs to be ironed out.
Let
It's-
me
Yes, sir. Go
yeah,
ahead.
let me just say, so
Yeah.
part of what this activity is to get input from the people who live here. We don't live here. We want to hear from you. What do you care about? What are the things in your community that you value? So when we put together the line by line list with, dollar amounts if it's appropriate of a community benefit plan, we can take that and we can pull out one of those things into an agreement, right? And that becomes a little bit more palatable for a potential owner operator to look at it and be, okay, this piece is the agreement from the plans. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So,
We want one of these
this will be a list of things that will make up a plan. And one of those things potentially, this is all hypothetical. These are part of the process of what we're trying to figure out alongside the residents.
To give you an example for that, would be, what I was planning on last time. If somehow the chief or the plan said we need capital equipment for Charles Ray.
Perfect example.
That's an easy one.
That can
Yes.
be, that's immediately can be pulled out.
That's a gimme.
That's
Exactly.
That can immediately be pulled out as a, in the
Yes.
plan, and it's in,
Yes.
And that's something, we also have a reputation and integrity we want to protect. We work all over the United States. And just like a lot of you did, you looked at our history, you looked at, I know you did, I know you looked at like projects we worked on, and we get that everywhere we go. That our reputation matters, and so, we want to impart on whoever does buy some of those high expectations. And that's an example of one. That should be basically the cost of doing business. It's like, okay, the fire department needs the resources and the training and the equipment to meet the need, for sure.
So the expectation of the buyer would be to buy the project alongside the providing of that.
Right. And NFPA 855 has a lot of strong language around that anyway, so if we're meeting that through the state's code and through, some of these have a lot of overlaps as well. So, yeah.
And when the state created this new process, we're one of the first projects to go through this new process that the state has enacted. That's an example.
Are you saying we're the monkeys in the line?
That's an example of one of the things that they know is going to come up, right? So there is language that lists the fire safety things as an example of requirements to be included in a community benefit agreement.
So I want to do a time check.
I think it's almost 7.
7:06. 7:06. We want to get you
I
all
think
out
we've
of
had a
here.
couple more hands up that we haven't gotten to.
So just to set the frame, I do want to start answering these questions, but I want to keep fielding as long as you want. Yes, sir.
From a community benefit plan, walking into a community benefit agreement, what's the time frame on that? At what point does it become solid, it change?
It can always be changed. It will just require, whatever process was used to make it, has to be used to amend it. So it can be changed.
Even after it's an agreement?
Correct, as long as the process you take to amend it is the same as what you made to make it, if that makes sense. So for instance, if we take an agreement to the town selectmen, or I don't even know, maybe it has to go to the town meeting actually, then only a town meeting could amend it. That's something I would need to learn from you guys. But I think that's what the Amazon agreement did.
They did a zoning change, but the agreement might have gone through select board.
Okay. So yeah, that could be one of the ways. The thing is, I would say is once the project's in operation, there's not necessarily teeth to, like, for both parties to agree to change it. You know what I'm saying? That's like, when we're still looking for all the permits, there's sort of leverage on the side of the town, on the side of the state, to negotiate the terms. Without that leverage, once the system is built, I'm not sure I'm just conjecture, this is conjecture, but there may not be like something to really animate the ordinance and change it. So I think with circumstances, maybe I'm not predicting every scenario.
You've got another question?
Yeah.
Is this facility selling the energy back to the national grid and whatnot, or are they using the facility to store their?
Both.
Whatever remains?
Both. So it's basically every day doing two things. And at the core of it, it's buying and selling electricity. If I may just pull up real quick.
While he does that, I would like to give an example, an analogy. Imagine a water tower. It serves the same purpose of a water tower, which is regulating the pressure in your water lines. It's not only storing water, but it's also maintaining the pressure in your house. A battery system works the same, but for energy, for the energy system. So as the needs on the electrical system change, the battery will discharge, and it will charge, and it will regulate the frequency and the voltage and all these other
But
services.
is that facility charging for their services and raise the rate? How does that business model work?
So when we're charging, we're purchasing power from the grid. When we're discharging, we're making revenue, right? So it's all balance. Yeah. So the utility, well, it depends on which type of it's either a PPA or a tolling agreement. It's the agreements in place prior to construction on how the actual math works. But in general, it's when we buy or when we charge, we're paying on this rate, or depending on even the day or by the hour, the rate might change. Depending on when we sell the power, the rate might change. So like, for example, 7 p.m. at night, when solar kind of turns off, AC is still running, everybody's
That's
still
exactly
running
where
around.
we're at right now.
Bam, look at that. You got a
Right
very
now,
high number.
This is a live view. This is on our website, so you can play around with it. You can also cause a thermal runaway, so be careful. But I think yeah, okay. So, but we built this because we want to try and make this real. So this is looking at right now what's on the grid, and we're in peak demand right now. We're at it's 7. What time is it? 7:10.
It's a hot day, people are getting home from work.
Right now on the grid, there's 18.49 gigawatts of demand. And that's pretty, I think 25 gigawatts is considered the max. So we're like pretty high up there. And on a megawatt hour basis, the real-time price right now is $351. That's really high. This system right now, if this was currently operating, let's say the project passed and was operating, it actually would be discharging right now. It would be adding to the grid, because right now everyone's at home watching TV. They just finished drinking. Do you guys drink tea? Like you have tea kettles. They just drink some tea, and they got the AC running because it's 78 degrees out. Sorry.
Do you
It's not
guys
that
have, when you cook, is it gas or is it electric?
Depends on that.
Yes.
Yeah, there's cooking dinner. So it would be discharging right now. It's also, at the same time, it's also trying to manage the voltage of the line. So it's actually trying to help keep the voltage at a 60 hertz range. And so it is, on the whole, it is discharging, but it's also charging a little bit. But on the whole, it's discharging and charging a little bit, all in real milliseconds, just to kind of keep everything balanced.
I have 4 closely related questions, which we should address. Question 1, how are you going to mitigate a lightning strike causing a catastrophic failure? Question 2, how are you going to contain the runoff fire water from poisoning the town's wells? Question 3, what are your plans for building a fire water pond for the fire department so they have water to put out the fire? And last but not least, if you don't have plans for building any fire water pond, then where will the fire department get the water to put out a catastrophic fire?
Fantastic. Rochelle, should we transition?
Yeah.
Should we transition into answer mode, or do you guys still have questions? Yes, I see your hands
As
up.
a realtor, I'm curious when you keep mentioning the buyer for the project, you're not listed as the owner of the land,
No,
you have a lease.
yes.
And how is the lease affected by the outcome of these meetings?
The lease is, well, right now we're in an option period for the lease. It's not until the project gets fully approved that the full breadth of the lease gets executed, which is basically a shared goal we have with the landowner. We want to get to that
So
executed.
you have an option to take a lease.
Correct. Or, well, yeah, maybe I would use different language, yeah.
It's a lease option.
Lease
Yeah.
option.
Yes, how you always do.
Yes.
So you won't wanna, you're not paying money on the land at least by the operational rent during the development period.
Yeah, there's a development rent, which we're paying now, and then an operational rent, which is much higher. So to your point, I guess your question, I know we're not like necessarily in answer mode yet, but it affects it to the extent that I guess it's not really going to affect it per se, except for if through this process, for whatever reason, the project doesn't come to fruition, then there's no operational lease.
So you're not intending to purchase the 15 acres that this is going on?
No.
There'll be a long-term lease with the current owner of the 50 acres?
Yes, 15, yeah. Yeah, the parcel itself 47, and then the portion we would lease is 15.
Thank you.
We built a business model in which we really value the relationships we build with our landowners. It's not something that every company does in our industry, but we feel like it's the right thing to do. So every company can approach this in whichever way they think is best, but we value that sort of dedicated financial stability that happens with the lease structure.
There are partners.
Right. They're our main partner, yeah.
I'll take your two is the last two questions.
So I know that just kind of with supply and demand, even though kind of, so the idea is to charge while, demand is low, right? And then sell and when it's at peak, right? So in today's modern age, a lot of things, I mean, back years, there have been things like refrigerators and things like that. So, is there anything that we can do to kind of mitigate, like it's going to increase our rates, right?
No.
Well, because if it's being sold at the higher rate anyway, right, and you guys are taking from the grid while it's cheaper, is that not going to result in the grid deciding, maybe we should charge a little bit more if there's a little bit more demand at this point?
Well,
That's
just-
not going to.
Just so we know, this is the market rate.
Yep.
That means that if you're a coal plant in Maine, you're making that number two.
Okay.
Same thing. So it's, if you have multiple projects that you can operate at a cheaper rate and still make that amount of money, yes, you're going to make a profit. It doesn't change rates for the customer.
So it's not taking, you're not taking anything from the grid, you're not like acting as if, I guess you're not using the power immediately, but you are kind of taking it from the grid, so to speak. Like
But
it's
we're
not
paying
something-
for the power to get pulled from the grid.
And the reason why the prices are high is because there is a lot of demand.
Yeah.
So when you have more capacity, you're able to put downward pressure on the prices. So the more that there are power plants online, the more that you're able to drive the cost of energy down as well.
But I do think your question is kind of dynamic because you're maybe thinking a couple steps ahead, where now we're a load at night, are we adding to the load? Because did I put words in your mouth?
Yeah, no, that's more, I just didn't really have the words to say it. Like it's, there was load there now that
Right.
wasn't before. Is that not going to impact the cost at that lower?
I think that's a good question. I mean, keep in mind that part of our system actually, basically our system runs on a bunch of wheels. These big turbines that are running, whether it's a coal plant, a natural gas plant, even a wind turbine, like these things are just spinning. And they take a lot of time to spin to the frequency. So if I just flip the switch on a coal plant, it's gonna be 8 hours before that thing comes online. And so over the night, you're still spinning these things because you know at 7 a.m., a bunch of people are gonna wake up at the same time, and you want that And so you basically, I'm not gonna say are wasting electricity at night, but you are spinning it because you're trying to keep the grid online for that 7 a.m. wake up call, or maybe 6 a.m. here because y'all are overachievers, but you know what I'm saying, like you're trying to keep that going. And so I do think there's an argument to say, well, that electricity is sort of not, I'm not gonna say going to waste per se, because it all kind of evens out in the pricing. But we're taking that underutilized capacity at night and putting it, when it gets really expensive, and I would say we suppress the prices at that peak time. If you have ready to go on-demand electricity at that time, and you're not having to turn on a new peaker plant, for instance, to meet that demand. You're not having to turn on like little smaller wheels. Then I think, I want to say I would think it would have price suppression, but we know in this world prices tend to just keep going up. So I don't know. I studied economics in school and I don't understand economics.
I would agree with it.
Okay, last question, and then let's do like a 10-minute power of answers. Yeah.
Now, except for potential property tax rules, and say potential tax incentive is in the picture somewhere.
True, yeah.
Some gifts to the town for protection purposes. And a buy-sell program to the electric company. What is the actual benefit to the town job?
That might be a good question to read off our power question, our power answer block here. What is the benefit to Charlton?
About $30,000 a year.
I'm sorry?
About $30,000 a year in tax revenue. I'm guessing more or less, but it isn't really
In real estate tax, you're saying?
Yeah, about 30,000 probably. I'm guessing.
Raw would be a little bit more than that. We
But
still have
it
to do a
isn't like,
full,
it isn't like a couple $1 million Amazon if you guys are thinking that. It's not that.
I will say though, on a per acres basis, this is gonna be, like Amazon's obviously a big project. So in absolute terms, yeah, it's bringing in a big amount of money. We're a little bit smaller, we're a little more modest. We're 6 acres. But on a per acre basis, I'm willing to say we go toe to toe with any other land use in the city. or
well,
the town.
we also have our personal property tax, which is the value of the system.
Right.
And I don't know the value of the Amazon Center, but this is around, somewhere around $250 to $300 million for this project. And
Sorry, what?
It's around $250 million for this project.
Build that?
About $150 million for that.
Wait.
Yes.
What is the expected project cost for this project?
I'm not expected $250 to $300 million. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, substation.
It could be,
The
you know,
upgrades to the
230, but it's something in that range.
All the permits.
Does that include?
$300 million?
No, I mean,
Yes,
Close.
$250 million.
For him.
No, this project.
This project, 6
Yeah.
acres.
Battery energy storage system, $250 million project.
about right.
Not us.
Well,
When I asked that question a couple weeks ago, you said
remember how we said we didn't have the money to,
50,
That's that.
50. Well, for the modules themselves, yeah.
To build the project, it would be 50, not 250.
that's the construction cost, right? To operate it, the actual equipment of it,
Let's write down
So-
the questions.
Yeah.
So if I'm the buyer, you guys are ready to sell this to me,
yeah.
how much do I have to pay to buy?
Like, it's nowhere near $250 million. So you're paying for entitlements, right? So it's pennies a pound, right? It's not even close. We're not making anywhere close to that number.
You're building this project to sell to somebody, correct?
Yeah. Well, we're developing the site to sell.
Okay, when you go to sell it, how much, what would be the asking price? 250 million?
It's not built.
No, that's the
When they
actual-
sell it, it's not built.
Right.
They have a lot of money to put up to make that money. It's sort of like you have to have money to make money. We don't have the money to make that money.
The buyer just buys an approved plan, permit.
Like a blueprint, right?
Yeah.
You guys went through the effort of designing the project and of getting it approved.
Now, once the project's built,
They get to
yes,
make
the
it.
value of it is, you know, something like that. Yes.
How many megawatts per year do you expect to move through the facility?
I don't think we've done an 8760 yet on the site. You know, that's still kind of a little bit down the road. We still have to get through our interconnection agreements, get the exact specs of the project before we're ready to release it. 8760 is the amount of power you create throughout the entire year.
In the ballpark?
I don't even know if I could,
Yeah, we will write that down and get an answer to you.
yeah. There's some battery too that you're pulling and pushing. It's,
Right, but you're arbitraging on fractions of a penny, right?
Yeah, we're basically.
So
Yeah.
$250 million is a lot of pennies.
yeah.
I mean, so far we lost $6 since I took this on. I don't know. I'm not sure where. Yeah, I know we have 7 more minutes. I desperately do want to answer all your questions. How would you like me to proceed for the 7 minutes? Do you want me to touch on some of the main highlights that we've talked about? I know we can dig deep on any one of these topics, but what?
Let me just say, we have this room reserved until 8, but we do have to pack up at some point. But we are happy to answer all your questions through email, through Zoom. We can do a Zoom follow-up. If you leave your information with us, we can have a follow-up Zoom call where we go through further detail with everything.
Yeah, a few things coming up. We have a webinar with, on fire safety. So we'll have a fire safety specialist who will do a webinar that is open to everybody. You can ask questions. It'll be really well formatted.
But maybe we can go through like the top topics.
And you have a website for this project, carpenterhillpower.com. You're gonna put all these questions there and your answers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we don't have to answer every one of them in long form tonight with everybody here.
Correct.
And we can go
So
back.
when's the next time you're gonna be here?
Well, did we determine that?
Phil Finney is a postcard.
So, we're hoping to be back at least once per month. So we're hoping to have more input here. It looks like Old Home Day is in September, so we'll definitely be back before then. So today is July 8th, so sometime before the end of July, sometime in August, and then definitely
We'll do the
by Old
webinar
Home Day.
probably in August.
But these are just touch points, right? We will do another meeting like this in that fall time area. So if we need to reserve a different room to pack it even more than this, we can do that. We'd like to kind of talk to as many people as
Can you
possible.
tell us when to come back? We really rely on you guys to know the best time of the year, the best season, the best.
We also don't
We know
want to
there's,
schedule.
you know, there's soccer season coming up.
Yeah.
There's things we try to know, but we desperately need your help in figuring.
We don't want to schedule a meeting on the same day as like the big town game or something.
Maybe we put a poll on the website.
One quick thing, if you haven't added your email, please do, because that's, for sure we'll get information with plenty of time. As we saw, we had the hiccup with the mailer. Email is the best way you can get the information, even quicker than the website. That way you don't even have to go and keep updating and all that. You get an email with the latest information. So if you haven't yet, I would highly recommend you. Yes.
I know y'all want to get to answering stuff, but just a little peanut gallery kind of thing. If y'all want to get in contact with people from Charlton, Old Home Day, if you can get a
Yeah.
booth there, that is by
It's done.
far
We will do
the best way to get in contact with as many people from Charlton as possible. Out of all the events in town, that is the most, kind of, at least as far as I'm aware, you know, visited event. Like, you're going to get as many people as possible, more than the mailers.
More than the blueberry.
For sure. More than what?
More than-
Oh, for sure. By a long shot. I
We should
live
be there
right
both
there.
days.
I live right by it.
Cool. Thank you for that. Thank you for
If you're a runner, there's a wonderful 5 mile you can do.
It's a pretty nice event in
If you
general.
like hills.
Wait, what was the 5 name?
5 miles, not 5K. Lots of hills.
We were at that Cascade Park and we could barely climb up the little hill. Okay, so we have time to get to some of these. It looks like the most common questions were water quality, the wells, noise, and the lifespan of the project, the decommissioning plans, and obviously fire safety. Yeah, over here, environmental safety was the biggest topic to focus on. Environmental protection and conservation. The amount of tree coverage that you guys have here is gorgeous. I mean, we would be blessed to have that much where we live in Orlando. It's beautiful to see what you guys here have here. Not as much as they have here.
We have a lot of swamp.
It's funny that you guys brought up lightning strikes because we're actually trying to figure out, is it more likely to be struck by lightning in Florida, which is, I guess, the lightning strike capital of the world, or have a battery system catch fire? And it's like many, many, many times more likely to be struck by lightning in Florida, which is kind of terrifying because that's where we're going to be tomorrow when we go home. And it's very stormy. How close did you say? Ooh, that's a great question. Let me write that down.
George, how close are the cabinets to each other?
No, the thickness.
Yeah. Steel, oh, because we did get earlier, someone asked us, what if, are they
We're going to
bulletproof?
shoot it.
And we
Depends on the caliber.
yeah. Most, I think up through like a, basically, yeah, up through.
The smallest caliber, the 9mm, will probably dent it. Anything more than that will probably pierce it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about environment for a second. So, I think in terms of land, the most painful part of this project is that we need to clear upwards of, we're saying 10 acres, we want to kind of overshoot the estimate. But 10 acres of trees. And these are fairly mature, decades-old trees. I mean, it's a pretty mature canopy. And with that, there's a number of issues with respect to the soil. Imagine all these roots now, all these roots pulled out. That raises an erosion control issue. And of course, yeah, silt fences and things like that will speak to that. But there's also a process that needs to happen in reestablishing the integrity of that soil. So there's even maybe some cover cropping that basically has to happen before we even step foot, because the soils might be particularly acidic, or we kind of need to work through that. The other challenge we have with the soils is they're not wetlands, but there are a lot of hydric soils, which means they do hold some amount of water, which means they don't necessarily percolate with water very well. It doesn't necessarily drain into.
On your map, floodplain, 100 year, 50 year, 75 years.
100 years. And that corresponds with there's a wetland just off the map right here. And that's part of, this is actually, if you look at an elevation, and this is not the best map, but that floodplain that you're seeing, sorry, this won't, this is a cross section. If I just took a line straight through here into the middle, it would look a little bit like this, where we have the power lines here. We're basically on grade with the power lines. We would add a swale on the south side. I mean, this all has to still be engineered. We'd add a swale on the south side, because essentially water is flowing from the north to the south. There's a water body up here. There's two ridges here that kind of show this is the ridge line. And so we're kind of sitting in this valley, so to speak. And water sheets south into this floodplain. This is where there's a bit of a drop off. So this like dip right here. And all of that's part of the floodplain.
Have you got that in the ledge issue?
Ledge?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, major ledge.
I mean, there's going to be, I think for our substation, we're going to run into that because there's some, the soils basically are showing ledge up here. Obviously, right here is ledge. very rocky soils in some of these areas. Yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, that's part of what makes it a $250 million project, is the soil engineering. Now, I think you mentioned you have a well to the north.
Yes.
I think you're probably fine because the water is going to be flowing south. I think everyone will be fine, let's be clear. In part because of that swale. That's basically our catchment basin where water can stage, any runoff water can stage, and any amount that leaves that is high quality. Through the state permitting process, we're not, and even the local bylaws for stormwater, we're not permitted to increase the amount of water that sheets off our projects. Now, we'll have to compensate for all that canopy that's lost. Because right now, that's actually helping maintain
Soil integrity.
yeah, soil integrity and just, all those leaves and limbs slow water down, and just, that all is gonna affect the hydrology of the site.
Let me just add one thing. So there was, someone brought up this incident in California. There's been a number of documented incidents with the binder over here. Whenever we hear about groundwater contamination, pretty much every time that has happened is because of improper procedures in trying to put out a thermal runaway fire. So kind of spraying mass amounts of water on the system, and that attempt to put out the fire sort of creates the water runoff, contaminated water runoff. The idea of dealing properly does not involve that process of spraying that water. It involves letting the fire burn out to not create sort of this deluge of contaminated water.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, I spoke to you before on, I was in the semiconductor field for 10 years. So you've got dealt with sulfuric acid, hydrochloric, arsenic, boron, etc. Hydrochloric was one of the big ones that we dealt with. We didn't have to take people at the hospital. Hydrochloric acid is what we used to call the sneaky acid. Because when it goes on you, it looks and feels like water. But you don't realize till later, when you lay in bed in extreme pain, as the acid goes through the layers of skin and the muscle, and then into the bone, and then it attacks the bone. You let something burn off, it gets into the atmosphere. You don't know what type of day it is when this fire happens. If it's a breezy day, everything goes up and gets diluted a great deal. Maybe that'll be safer than one that's very humid, dense air. Now you have a cloud.
Right.
Hydrochloric acid.
Right. I mean, this is a simulation, so it lacks certain. So, right now, the wind, it's pretty static. It's 5 miles per hour, moving, well, this is Springfield, but moving south. And we just simulated a fire. These vents just opened up, and there's hydrogen fluoride. I don't know, who's the chemist? Okay, so I don't know if there's a difference between volatile hydrofluoride versus hydrofluoric acid. I think there is.
Just add water.
Just add water. So this is without, well, so we're not gonna add water to this one.
There's water in the atmosphere.
But it is saying that within basically 50 feet of the system downwind, and because it is a pretty low wind, there's 6.4 parts per million of hydrogen fluoride in the atmosphere, according to the simulation, which is pretty high. It's not deadly high, but it is definitely irritant high, and prolonged exposure to this, let's say an hour or even less, could ruin your day. And I don't mean to sound like with that. I think it's a very serious issue. part of what we'll do as part of it in our application even is what's called a plume analysis, where it does look at different conditions and scenarios, whether it's stagnant air or heavy winds, and other atmospheric conditions. And it will provide a simulation of what we think the splash zone, I guess, of potential hydrofluoric acid or hydrogen fluoride is in the air. Now, as a rule of thumb, and I again don't say this lightly, and I think we deserve a written answer from a chemist. Beyond 500 feet, from what we see in other fires or other incidences, beyond 500 feet, we sort of enter into a safer zone when it comes to exposure, even on the stagnant heat. So one of the things we've done is there are no structures or navigable areas within 500 feet. That's just a simple rule that applies to this particular system. So yeah, I guess that's where I'll leave that on that. But 6.4 parts per million is high. You would want that even below 3. But this is 50 feet away. You're standing 50 feet away, so you're in the hot zone if you're 50 feet away. But we have
Within the fence line.
Yeah, the fence line is 50 feet. So, but I mean, so there are no neighbors. But what if responders come? What if there are people that respond to the site? We don't want them exposed either.
But this is something Paul Schwartz.
That's true. I mean, in all smoke, Curtis Meska said this today. Maybe I'll misquote him. He's like, all smoke is bad. So any fire has chemicals of all kinds, and increasingly so. Like the modern era just is filled with hydrocarbons and hydrofluorides, and I don't even, let's just pick anything on the periodic table. And so all smoke is bad. I'm not even getting into carbon monoxide yet, but yeah, we still want to be cognizant of the people that are exposing themselves. Of course, if we have a strong community benefit treatment in place, they have all the right resources. Yeah.
Would you be willing to change your battery energy storage system so that it's contained, it doesn't vent to the atmosphere?
The venting is
Or
vital.
get a building and put these inside the building that has venting and filtering?
If I may just flatly say, absolutely not. That's what we learned from the first litter of battery systems that came out. And I mentioned to some folks there was, I don't know if you've ever heard of Surprise, Arizona. It's sort of an unfortunate name for what happened in Surprise, Arizona, where they did enclose in basically a shed a battery energy system. This one was a nickel, manganese, cobalt based one. And that's a whole other discussion. We're using lithium, phosphorus, iron phosphorus, but the problem there is that the gases accumulate and create an explosion risk. So in the Surprise, Arizona context, they doused this thing with water, thousands of gallons, and they thought they put it out, but there was stranded energy in the system. There was still energy in that battery system. So when the firefighter responded and opened the doors to that I call it a shed, I guess it was Italian, but
Imagine a warehouse.
yeah, it was, all this oxygen rushed in, and it exploded, it ignited that stranded energy, and he literally, 2 people blew back off their feet. And what we learned from that is enclosure, I mean, there are regulations for enclosures. This is what's considered in NFPA 85, a remote site, because it's enclosed, the system is enclosed, but the venting helps prevent that deflagration, or that potential for explosion.
Now it goes from explosion to just fire.
Now, before it gets to this point, it's not really well represented in the model, but there's a section at the top where there's these little igniters. Think of your grill, like when you go to ignite your grill, unless you're like a coal guy or whatever that's cool too, like your charcoal guy. But yeah, you have this little igniter, and as soon as the battery system responds instantly to increases of heat and any injection of gas. As that gas rises, those little igniters create little explosions. Wait, sparks.
Not explosions.
Not explode. I was told today, not explosions.
Pop.
Little pops, which help consume that gas and avoid that explosion. But
The important thing that happens in these scenarios is these systems are full energy. And so that energy can lead to a disaster if it's not released out of the system. So what happens is it's built to automatically shut down and release all that energy as fast as possible. Because then you get an actual, you know,
Oh yeah, it's first and foremost, it's designed to manage heat and keep things cool. You can see even in this scenario, like this battery is still operating at, it's still maintaining the temperature. These ones have heated up to 183. That's pre-runaway, but that's still pretty hot. This one's obviously still consuming the charge, and I think at the time that I set this off, it was like half full, so it's gonna take. This is running in real time. This is gonna take maybe another hour or more.
So an incident happens and you get to it quick enough before the runaway happens, and those sparkles are gonna burn off all that gas before it gets out there.
Yeah, if we can manage the heat, like, the problem, the persnickety thing about thermal runaway, like, yes, in certain instances, we can manage it, the system can manage it, keep it cool, awesome. Except if there's a defect in the cell itself. Because there's not really a way for us to manage at the cell level right now in terms of cooling that particular cell, because imagine these are all like shelves here. And when I pull out these shelves, there's a bunch of batteries, almost like AA batteries, like just all in an array, like just stacked on the shelf. And one of the ones in the middle, like goes and burns, like we're limited in how we can access that. So it starts that thermal runaway. Now, if it gets to the shelf part, we hope that it doesn't spread to the next shelf. If it does spread to that shelf, we hope that it doesn't spread from this cabinet to this cabinet.
But even within that one cabinet, if you have runaway, then that's gonna be responsible.
Right.
Because it gets past it.
As soon as it gets too hot, that's why they call it thermal runaway, because it's this cascade effect that just, it outpaces the ability to cool it. But that's if there's a cell defect.
But you can imagine, you know, we have this scale model here that we taped on the ground. You can imagine that these cabinets would take up like roughly this much space, right? So you would contain it, the event within this much space without it going to the next one.
Well, that's all well and good, let's see how light.
Without what, sorry?
Well, let's see how light is, right, and then they all go off something.
I'm gonna get back to you on this lightning strike thing, yeah, because I just want to investigate that more. Not heard of that happening, but it's within the realm of possibility, right? Luis was almost struck by lightning last night. Tesla should know, and that's actually something that was raised by this, remind me, Lee mentioned this earlier. Before we meet with you guys again, we're gonna have Tesla send us something, they have one, the megafactory well testing, all that. We'll ask them about the lightning.
Is the temperature of the other shelves in the simulation being simulated in what it would be like in real time? So like, if before it was like at 100 degree like you had said, but just based on the coloration, I can't see the like actual temperatures from here. Like in real time, that would be like how the system is managing the temperature of the other shelves?
Correct. And by this point, the fire department is already on site in the simulation, and now that we see these have been cooled down now where they were in that dark yellow.
Yeah.
The simulation, we estimate they'll get there by 8 minutes.
I mean, not.
Maybe we increase it, but yeah, so to your point, the system, it's still able to cool. It's not connected to the grid anymore, but there is still, there's still a heat pump that can draw air as fast as it can. Draw heat, you could say, out of the system as fast as it can. But yeah, we're using the same guy who, his name's Jim McDowell. He's been one of our main collaborators on this system to make sure the simulation actually does represent real life. But there's still errors in the simulation or contingencies we've not thought of, like lightning strikes. I just want to put that like asterisk.
Yeah, like it is in a controlled, like hypothetical situation that you have considered, like I couldn't pretend like, oh, this is what would happen if a lightning strike happened, right? Because you haven't accounted for that.
Correct.
Under the controlled chaos, so to speak, that was put into the creation that.
Yeah, we wanna add lightning and bullets.
That is a very good one for not only
Especially
hunts,
children.
but hunting.
Okay. I know we have to wrap up, guys. I really appreciate your time. I know it's been this has been a bit of a marathon. Before we leave tonight, can I ask one more question? Just like one last question. Yes. Well, maybe can I contextualize one thing? Actually, no. So we'll take your question, and then July 17th, we'll have answers to all these questions on our website. We'll send them to the Facebook. We probably won't mail them to you, but if you're in our email list, we'll send you an email. Yes, sir.
I was gonna ask, this thing is also connected to the Millennium Power Plant and other solar infrastructure facilities. It's also really close to Katy Brook and the nature preservation as well. That going on with I forgot what you said, when it explodes in a fire, that will also impact the nature sanctuary, the solar facilities, and the power plant at the same time in different ways. So I'm trying to say that we also need to put certain things around those areas, especially the power plant.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's kind of a recommendation. But yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are you willing to change the system selection and the site design based on community feedback and concerns that you're hearing, rather than just handling objections?
May I repeat the question to understand it? So like, can you give me an example?
Are you willing to change from a Tesla to a General Electric to a different system? And are you willing to change the system design? It's apparently all sketched out kind of, preliminarily right now. Change the footprint, the size, the layout, the spacing, and the model? Or are you just handling objections from community feedback?
That's a fantastic question. So the technology, we're not tied to this Tesla technology. This is what we're showcasing right now because we have to show something, of course. And being that this project is going to be a little bit further down the road, technology keeps evolving. And even right now we're showing you the Tesla Megapack 3. The footprint is much smaller on that one than the previous model. The previous model we needed 156 packs. Right now it's at 136 packs. So 5 years from now, the technology that does get selected for the interconnection study. So once you're locked in, that's what they study, that's what you use. That will then change because there's even batteries now being developed that are stackable. So that reduces the footprint by a lot. So it'll just depend once that study is.
Just a quick adder to that. So we go into interconnection queue in October-ish, right? It takes us about 6 to 8 weeks to prepare that application. If we were to redesign it, which is fine, we can certainly do that. We think this is probably the best technology right now, is these particular packs. It would need to be, kind of decided this summer. We certainly are open to adjusting the specs on the site based on the community.
Including the site design, spacing, elevation, depth of the system, weighting of the system,
As
how
long
long the
as-
system.
As long as those designs don't impact basically the requirements of the batteries that we use, right? So certain batteries have to be at a certain height, a certain distance from certain things. They're all different. So, we just need to be within those parameters.
We have intention of meeting with large energy storage, or not large energy system. Part of your bylaw is obviously outside of the environment. Those requirements of setbacks and clearance, things like that. 7:52, okay. there's a lot of food here if anyone wants to take to go.
Please take the food.
And oh yes, if you've seen one of these cards, these are anonymous surveys. You can fill this card out.
Hand it to Seth on your way out.
Yeah.
Grab a plate, take some home. We got grilled cheese, paninis, salad.
Please feel free to fill these out.
And really thank you guys for taking the time out of your evening. It really means a lot to us that you did this, and it's going to make the project better, having your
Thank you, everyone. Hey, Pat. Good to see you.